Heads, you have Mitch, Sarah, and Nick here, and we're ready to talk about re-gearing axles on JKs and a Cherokee. We have your extra we want to talk about. Yeah, so my first build was a JKU. So we had my 2011, and what we first decided to do, instead of actually changing out the axles, before we did that, we decided to re-gear, sleeve, and lock them. And then we did it in your garage.
In my garage.
Because we have a very tiny, we did have a very tiny garage that it was really good at whacking your head in.
Yes.
Because the beam sat so low.
Yeah, if you were a child, you were fine.
Yeah. Unless you climbed something.
Yeah.
But your garage, stone's throw away, and
heated. Because it was winter time.
It was winter that time, that's right.
Non-dirt floor.
Yeah.
Wide enough to slide axles out. One at a time.
Yeah.
Which we found out in all due time. So first things first, your 2011 3.8 has the automatic. We just looked up the gear ratio for the overdrive. It was 0.69. And that's where we
Trash.
Trash. And that is where we decided to go with the 488s with a 35, right?
Yeah, because we just felt it was really kind of sluggish. I mean, you don't have as much of an issue with the sluggishness because you have the different, gearing and everything like that than I do, than I had originally. Because you have your
373
in the axle.
Yeah, so I mean,
7 something.
Forgive me, I don't know what the transmission gear ratios are.
7 to
But it's a whole different powertrain. It's a different transmission. It's a different motor.
Yeah.
More horsepower, more torque.
Lighter.
I was just say definitely lighter, and that was definitely one of the things that I think probably led to us doing the re-gearing was because I'm sizably heavier than you.
Yeah.
Being the 4 doors plus, I was running 35s at that point in time. You were running 33s.
33s, yeah.
You know, and they were decently heavy tires.
And it's constantly, it wants to keep an overdrive for as long as it can, and then when it goes, does it go for third? No, it goes for second.
Yeah, it's
and that's a little bit, too intense.
Well, 2011, she had high K. It was close to 300,000.
Got it at 2.
Yeah, so I mean, and we put a decent amount of Q. We put over 130, almost 140,000 on it.
Yeah.
I noticed it was 339 today.
Yeah, time marches on.
Mm-hmm.
So where were we? So, okay, we decided.
We went with a 488 because based on the engine that we had, plus the transmission setup, plus the tires that we had, it was the best scenario for me was to go the 488s because if you decide to re-gear yours, as she says, you're probably sitting more towards a 456.
Yeah.
Because you don't need the deep gear.
No.
Yeah, you don't need that little extra
and with
bit.
the Dana 30, I'd rather more ring gear, as much ring gear as possible, right?
I was going to say, because in all fairness, the little pinion on the 48, it's pretty cute.
Yeah.
And,
that was the whole discussion, because I'm like, no, I'm pretty sure I can go to 513s, and you're like, the pinion.
Yeah, the pinion. I think you get down into the point of, having just a tooth and a half of contact. It's just, you just don't do that.
Yeah.
So we decided 488s was the way we wanted to go. We knew traction was an issue. Wheeling with the 373s open, every time you'd hang a tire, that was it. Your momentum was lost, right? So they had good tires at the time, but we needed some form of traction. So we decided on lockers, front and rear. Had no money, as all Jeepers are. And Aussie Locker and Lockrite were the ones that we were looking for at the time.
I thought we went Aussie and Aussie.
Eventually.
Yeah, there was a bit of a locker issue.
Oh yes, going back to episode 1, you hate your money.
Yes.
It's a Jeep thing. I'm pretty sure it's a Jeep thing. We just hate our money.
It must be.
So if you're going to buy something, make sure you do only half your research and spend all of your money. That's the
moral of the story.
That's how we did the locker, yeah. So, because it was we discovered that the 44 wasn't universal across.
No.
Although some of the things that we were looking at said it was.
Yes.
And some of the experts we talked to said it was.
Yeah.
So unfortunately, if it's your money, do your research.
Yes.
Yeah. That's the tagline for this episode.
Yeah.
Your money, your research.
Yeah.
Definitely.
So we ended up buying the wrong one. It would have been great for a 44, for a Scout or a Travelall, or maybe
even a TJ.
Yes, that's the newest version kind of thing.
Yeah, that would be the newest.
So, but if you have a JK or you have a Titan, you don't get to use that lock ring. So we found that out the hard way.
So Can you use the electronic locker out of a Titan?
You know what? I don't know, but that is worth some research because the Titan, as far as I'm concerned, is
Your research, your money. There you go.
I had a Titan with a rear locker.
There you go.
So I wouldn't be surprised because everything I've learned when it comes to all the nuances of the JK axle, which we've learned, the Titan is a wider version of the same thing. So I don't know how many inches wider. Like you're talking like 5 inches wider, or some craziness, but. If it's got a locker, I wouldn't be surprised if it's very similar to that Rubicon E-locker with same ring and pinion and everything.
Same lockout for 4 low.
Could you imagine? I think if we do some more research on this, that could be something going forward. Because you could get one of them axles.
Yeah, that would be.
Because you could probably get an axle for what, $800 to $1,000 tops.
Way cheaper than a.
I'd say way cheaper than
Jeep.
Yeah. Because you rode off your Titan. Oh, that sucks. Oh, you rode off your Rubicon? Where's your axles and your TK?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, people are salivating. But if you could do that.
And how long did they do the Pro 4X Titan?
I wouldn't be surprised.
That had the rear locker. Like,
as long as it's a half ton, not the 5
Well, yeah, so they had it from 06, 07.
All the way.
Until this newest generation that they just continued, so.
And why wouldn't they use?
14, 15?
And
so
really
almost 10 years.
What's stopping them from using the same thing all the way up? I don't know, right?
It's a heavier truck, I think, than you want.
Is it?
I think so.
Yeah. Okay, so we
interesting.
I was gonna say we got that
tangent.
Tangent.
Tangent 1.
So where are we here? So we had the gears. We decided on the lockers, the standard 44 locker, the 2410, which we just picked up the other day. Realized yes, that does not fit. Had to go back onto whatever, it was the Everything store. Picked up an Aussie locker for the rear, and that was
because we were going to go lunchbox front and rear.
Yeah, because again, why not do things twice, right?
Yeah, well,
every gear place I called, because when we were researching things, blah blah blah, said, don't waste your money. Don't put a lunchbox style small type ratchet locker in it, and just spend the money.
Especially not for a daily driver and stuff like that. We got a lot of flack about that. So.
Pull a full case locker in there, and because I don't exactly remember, but I think it was a matter of the inner spacing. So if you have your carrier and you have your side gears and your axle gears, I forget which ones were which, spider gears, side gears, yeah. The side gears needed something in the neighborhood of like 25 or 30 thou per side shim. And I remember when I called around to axle places or gear places, they're like, what are you doing? This is not something you fight around with. So, okay, if it was a completely off-road only thing, maybe we could have got away with it, but this is our daily car. This is our daily vehicle. This is our daily
She wasn't
Jeep.
terrible to drive, but you definitely had to know how to drive her.
Yeah.
Because, you didn't have your tight turning radiuses.
Are we talking about the front or the back?
Well, now she's talking about the front because
well,
you
I
never
was
did
talking
get
about
the rear.
We never got the rear end.
Satisfactory, right?
Once around the block.
Yeah.
Yep.
I don't even think we made it around anything. I think we just drove straight.
No, I drove it in our neighborhood up our, what do they call that, just down Logie a little bit.
Oh, I don't even think you did that. I think it was down to St. Peter at the end.
Well, anyhow, that's the side tangent.
Yeah.
So going back to swapping the gears out,
yes.
I remember, you had it in and out many times trying to get the pattern
trying to get
right.
the pattern right.
And then also when you were doing the bearings and whatnot, I remember a thing with my freezer and a toaster oven.
That's right. That was actually.
So
we still have the toaster oven.
Yeah.
So that goes to.
So when you're ready.
So that and that goes into that. My favorite part / least favorite part about the Titan, about the 44 and the JK, is you have your retainer, you have your seal, you have your bearing, and there's all kinds of weird shim stuff in there, and then you have the axle shaft bearing retainer, and that is a crazy press fit of like 5 or 6 thou. Like, it doesn't sound like much, but when you have to take it all off to change the seal or you have to do whatever, it's a big time interference fit. And I thought that we could just heat it up in a toaster, freeze the axle, whatever the case may be, but it took tremendous pressure. And it, like our little, whatever, 25 ton or whatever, 10 ton.
I remember it deflecting
quite a bit. This is not happening.
Yeah.
So we had to use a larger press. But yeah, that was a learning experience. So much of this job was a learning experience, and I feel like that's kind of the thing when you're a Jeeper, but you're a little bit new to the nuances of making the big leap and making the changes. Like, how often do you hear about people that have changed gears? It's like 1 in 10.
It's definitely a rarity. You don't hear it.
And not people changing their own.
Yes.
Like
That's
you
one
hear
in
it,
a
you
hundred,
hear it a
maybe.
lot. Yeah, you hear it a lot of people throwing 37s on, getting re-geared and whatnot. But it's at a shop, which
Yeah.
by all rights is
There's a reason.
Yeah, there's
Yeah,
a
there's a
reason.
reason.
It's not something I would tackle on my own.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah.
But again, you were gracious enough to lend your shop for over a week.
Was it only that long?
It
I-
wasn't
I-
super long.
No.
It might have been a bit longer, but
Yeah.
every night we were over there tinkering.
Yeah.
And in the 30,
Oh, hey, I got to drink a lot of beer.
and it was a comfortable shop.
Yeah.
So the 30 was great because we took the 30 right
Out.
out.
Yeah.
Right out. So
You
we
did
got
it on the bench.
Yeah, I remember
Yeah.
that sitting on the bench.
So then you could, because when we went to go, we were going to put the sleeves in, right?
Yeah, I was just say we decided we were going to sleeve it.
Because the sleeves were, a kit, TMR, blah, blah. You take the axle out, you clean it all out with a wire brush, you just test fit the sleeves. We got them test fitting just right. You drill some pilot rosettes or whatever, and then you just weld the end and stuff, and then boom, you got yourself a double wall axle that didn't, it doesn't have much more, doesn't have much whatever. So
Because we decided to go with sleeves because you have your Cherokee is sleeved.
with actually JK axle sleeves
Yeah, but well, that's
to
awesome.
cut down.
Okay.
But we decided to do it that way because, like, you had been running your 30 for years. We had seen what your 30 had done.
Too much, yeah.
Well, a lot of my build was based on his.
Okay.
Because, like, you had the lockers front and rear. You had lunch boxes. And I'd driven in your Cherokee before. And I'm like, it's not terrible to drive in.
Well, the Cherokee,
You know-
Detroit in the back, lunchbox in the front.
Yeah, but we discussed about putting hubs in eventually.
Yes.
That's how we were going to, like, make it a bit more drivable.
True.
Was that. But, like, that's why we went with the sleeves, because we wanted to give that 30 a little bit extra strength, especially with the added weight and everything like that. We wanted to give it a fighting chance.
Yeah. So, since we're talking about the front, how was the drivability with the front end locked up? Because obviously you put the lunchbox in the front.
Yeah, we had the lunchbox in the front, and then we pulled the locker out of the rear because the
couldn't-
carrier just was not to tolerance.
Yeah,
And
the carrier was at a spec, and it was just, I forget if it was one, you turn to the right and it was smooth, and as soon as you go to turn to the left, it wasn't a ratchet, it was
Yeah.
it was coarse ratchet.
yeah, it was really baggy, and it was like you could hear the destruction.
Yeah.
I know that sounds
or like your mechanical sympathy were just like, you know what?
"Ah."
Pump the brakes, you're hurting me.
Yeah, exactly. And I think it was an issue of trying to find carriers as well as the cost of a carrier.
Yeah. So, and then you're saying to yourself, okay, so now we've, 450, 500, whatever it was for the drop-in hardened torque, Aussie torque, whatever it is, lock right, essentially drop-in lunchbox locker, and you say to yourself, okay, so carrier for the front, $80.
Yeah, like it was ridiculously
nothing.
cheap.
Yeah.
Carrier for the 44 was $400.
Yeah.
Okay, so now I'm 500 something into the carrier. Sorry, 4 something into the carrier, 500 into the lock, right? Aussie.
We're not even going to talk about the gears,
Yeah.
like
Gears, bearings, setup kit.
The
crush
gears, bearing,
sleeve.
setup kit, it is what it is. But when you're talking locker, have to buy a new carrier. At that point,
yeah.
do you get
Just-
the new carrier, throw the lunchbox in, or do you
Yeah.
get a different locker?
Do you just save it for another build, which we did,
Well,
and
yeah.
and we ran it open.
We ran it open, but also too we went with this whole mentality of we have it all built. We might as well run it the way it is.
Yeah.
If we have issues and we're still having the same constant problems,
Yeah.
then we'll go and invest in putting a new carrier and we'll put a lunchbox in the rear.
Yeah,
But
because
no.
it was pretty easy. Like when it was all said and done, and you're climbing stuff, and the front end's washing back and forth, and you got one wheel peeling in the back.
Although I didn't have too much of it. Like I did really like the fact I had the front locker. Like I felt it changed the personality of my Jeep
Yeah.
a lot. Well, I didn't get stuck as much.
Nope. No, I didn't have to.
Pull me
Help
up a
you out.
hills as often, so that wasn't a nice.
No, that was nice. Yeah.
Because
I can't remember. Did you make it out of the bowl with that setup, on Forest?
I did make it out of the bowl. I have made it out of the bowl.
Was
Forest.
that the day that we all made it out of the bowl, or was that?
I think I've made it out twice. I think I made it
Okay.
out then, and I made it that day I broke.
Yes. Yeah. But
Yeah.
then these are dry days.
It was dry days,
Yeah.
but I've made it out. I've made it out of the bowl with that setup.
As we know, that trail changes the personality, time of year,
Oh.
moisture.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I've made it out of the bowl, no problems. Scamper up the rock, and then every other time I go, I can't make it past that first ledge.
If it's
Yeah.
the fall or if it's the spring, like
Yeah.
Like
But
you're
the height of summer, all the traction.
Yeah.
Sometimes it really
Depends on if there's a buggy run.
Yeah, it depends if there's a buggy run. It
Thanks,
depends on just so much. But no, going back to what you said, the drivability. I'm very particular about who drives my Jeep.
Mm-hmm.
So when we put the locker in, that was like a big thing for me because I knew you can't turn her hard because, you know, and there was like, you can't gas hard through the corners because I don't want you to snap shafts. So it was just, we definitely baby our stuff.
Yeah.
So like no harm to you, but you do drive your stuff harder than we do.
Yeah.
Right? So to sit there and baby it around corners, your turning radius became next to nothing.
Well,
you know.
So
and doing it slowly because you'd like, I don't want, like you'd hear the ratchet.
You didn't want anything to bind up.
Well, exactly. Yeah. And you hear the ratcheting and you just like take it nice and slowly. Mm-hmm. Like there was never any speed put to that axle.
Yeah.
Especially at corners.
Sorry, Nick.
Mm-hmm. I was just wondering I can't remember if you ran that setup in the winter.
Yes.
So the front was always in.
Yeah.
But the rear was only in for like a 7.
Yeah, no, I'm just wondering like if it would push through the corners more, especially on a slippery road or wet road.
When we put the heavier oil in it, so it never really changed its mannerisms at all because it was only ever being driven. It was never like when you had it on occasion when you needed the 4-wheel drive, it just powered on.
Yeah.
And it would push. Don't get me wrong, it would push if you had it in 4 high and you were going in like a snowy condition trying to turn. Like it would want to kind of walk a bit, but nothing crazy.
I would say nothing to be like, oh, that's the locker causing it.
Okay,
like
so nothing. It's not. If you drive it like it has a locker, then there's no surprises.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah, but like so, I'm a little bit particular when it comes to the setup and everything else, and you know we're at your place, we're setting up the 30 gears. Set up the 44 as well, but the 30 gears, you know, we had it dialed right in. We're at the workbench, the axle's on top, everything was perfect, you know, great conditions. Doing it on our backs, it wasn't, because again, the 30 was up there on the whatever, whereas the 44, we did it and it was challenging. Like,
I remember you and Jake crawled under there, getting it, checking the pattern, pulling it out, changing shims, putting it back in.
Yeah, pattern's great, backlash is not great. Yeah. Backlash is really close, but pattern just doesn't give me a good feeling. Yeah. So like back in and out.
Like how much gear paint did you go through on that?
That's
right. I think I stopped by that one time.
Yeah.
And I think you had the whole ring and you were like cleaning it off and starting again.
Yeah.
So
like it never ends. But again too, you think to yourself, okay, the 30, it's in constant mesh, but the 44 is under all the torque all the time.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And you're just like, well, I have to get this perfect.
Yeah.
Because you think in your mind, okay, this is the first set that I'd done basically as like the lead guy. I've done sets on my Jeep. I've done sets with my dad and stuff. But like when it's me making the call and it's my family in there, like you want it mint, right?
Yeah.
But so what I was going to touch on quickly with the front locker, nothing against the brands. It was just maybe whatever. But I remember with the old Carrier, and it said there was a tolerance. I can't remember if it was like 7 to 15 thou you had to have for clearance. It might be even less. I think it was less. But I remember the pin. I didn't change the pin, the cross pin. And, you know, you could see where, but you couldn't really feel it. And anyhow, so I didn't change that. And I remember it had that weird mannerism where it wasn't bad, but it wasn't as smooth as my old Dana 30 with the Lock-Right. And I'm like, what's this all about? And I deemed these guys to be awesome. So anyhow, I remember we pulled it out in the middle of winter. I think we even got somebody else to change the gear set or something because we were worried about it. And like
we sent it over to Judd's because you weren't happy with it.
What happened was that whine that it still has.
Yeah.
It was making that whine, and when it's cold,
she still whines.
Yeah. So, and then of course I hadn't done this to myself, like completely front to back.
Yeah.
So I was so concerned with it, I spent the money, and then when I told the guy, "Here's the cross shaft, I need you to change that," well, he's like, to his benefit, he's correct. Rarely do you ever need to change that shaft. That shaft barely wears. And in most cases, like if it's an open like the 44 and the 30, you have your side gears and you have your spider gears. They are held in with like an S-spring, and the S-spring keeps everything comfortable. Like it takes out all of the wear.
Okay.
So you don't have to worry about it. The case wears a little bit. Well, that spring just, And as a result, you never even, he just goes on forever and ever and ever, as long as you change your oil. But anyhow, so I was nitpicking all these small little details, and I think it's just not as, it's probably stronger, but it just, like we changed the carrier, we changed the cross shaft, we did all this stuff, and it just never behaved as nice as when we put the heavy duty synthetic EMS oil in it.
Yeah, we put really,
straight
really heavy.
250 or straight 300, like it was something crazy.
It was a really, really heavy oil that we put in there.
And in the summertime, it was beautiful. In the wintertime, when we first got going, you didn't hear nothing.
No.
So it's funny that I never noticed that it had a gear whine to it.
So it doesn't actually have a gear whine.
So the axle does not have a gear whine.
Well, then what was the whine?
I think it's the transfer case chain.
Oh.
What do you think it is?
It's
trans?
the power steering.
Okay, so we have this debate.
You said it was the front drive shaft. That was what you first started with.
Yeah.
We pulled the front drive shaft. No, sorry, we took the axles out. This is jumping ahead.
Yeah.
So when we had the axles out for the ton swap, we put brand new drive shafts in it.
Spoiler alert.
Spoiler alert, we put brand new drive shafts in it. And it still made the noise. And it's only when it's cold, and when it warms up it's fine. And it's not the T case, it's the power steering.
Okay, so.
Because I was going to say, my dad, in one of his old 3/4 ton work trucks, he had to get the gears redone in it, and it was a 14 full float, but the drum brake 14 bolt. After he got it done at a gear shop, it had a whine. And he took it back. They're like, no, that's just the gears breaking in. Had a whine for it was on the road for another 5 years before the motor went in it the third time. So.
See, it's weird. My dad's GM had a whine when they redid the rear end, but they actually they didn't have a good pattern and they put the wrong shims in it, and it actually overheated and grenaded on a highway.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
No, his never did. It was fine. It just always had a gear whine.
So when someone says, I know it's monopoly money, but when someone says, hey, I'll put your gears in for $500,
Yeah.
I don't know if that's enough. Okay, sorry, that's a lie. It doesn't seem like for the average guy, that's nowadays for what, $100-something an hour? You know,
Yeah.
Like if I do a gear set, I'm already in my mind. It's going to take me, Mr. Do-It-Yourselfer, the whole day, if not more.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Because I want it to be just perfect.
Yeah.
When that pattern's mint, that backlash is acceptable.
But if you're a gear shop or something that does 7 or 8 of these things a day.
Yeah, you should be just smoking.
Yeah.
And if you have all the tools, that's like when you read the front of the pinion, it tells you those numbers. Those numbers are pinion depth numbers from the center line. So if you got the pinion depth setup tool, you're golden.
Yeah.
But then the average Joe is like, okay, so I take this axle, okay, it's got this many shims. I'm going to put it back with those many shims. I'm going to check my pattern, check my backlash. And if it's within the ballpark, you win.
Yeah.
And if it's not, you get to start making it win.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. So anyhow, it's been a huge learning curve.
It was definitely a learning curve, but I mean, I know the drivability wasn't great in certain conditions, like, as I said, cornering and stuff like that. Turning around was definitely
Mall
something.
parking lots.
Mall parking lots. I mean, that's where I spend most of my time, is on a mall crawler. No.
Yeah.
But even thinking about going to events and stuff like that, we did a few paid events, and people were shocked. We're shocked about the fact that I had a front locker, but I had an open
I
rear.
believe the term was illegal combination.
There was, that term was thrown around.
Yeah.
So
quite aggressively at
Yes.
me in my direction.
Yeah.
That sounds very trail guide-ish.
Yes,
they
but-
didn't want you going up certain obstacles
Nope,
because
I
they were
had my
worried
illegal-
about your illegal combination.
Yeah, and then there was the whole thing of, I remember someone came up to me and they're like, if you take your locker out, or like if you pop your locker off and you put it in 2-wheel drive, you won't have that sound when you turn. And I'm like, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
But-
in all fairness, if you don't know how to drive, like if you
Aren't familiar.
Yeah, don't know is not the right term. But if you're not familiar with driving it, that is a dangerous combination. Going up a slick surface, like a steep slick surface.
Because when it
your front
breaks-
end will kick over really fast.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it was the type of environment. It was a long, slick hill climb.
I came up to that bottom of that hill climb, and with wet tires, I knew my tires weren't great. We had they'd put on some heavy miles that year, and they'd gone down to Florida.
They went. Yeah, I was gonna say they went to Florida and
Well, they
got
went down
worn
to
off
Florida.
with the seashells.
Yeah. So I mean,
By the seashore.
By the seashore. So that alone kind of, I don't know, that whole obstacle. I got down to the bottom of it. I looked at I looked at it and I'm like,
what am
I don't
doing?
want to do this. Like, it wasn't even like, I can't do this. I just didn't want to do it.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, I knew my tires were garbage,
Yeah.
essentially. They
Yeah.
were at the
End
end
of
of their
life.
life. They were at the end of their life,
Yeah.
right? I knew that I had the front locked. I was watching vehicles with lock. I think you went up ahead of me. And you were locked, and you struggled a little bit. And I'm like, there's no way in heck I'm getting up that hill.
And then I come along and scamper up.
Yeah, but like also too.
But that's more, I carried more momentum.
Yeah.
But
I also had both kids with me.
Oh, yeah, that changes everything.
Right? So, like, I sat there and I came to the end and I'm like, I don't want to do this. And, like, all right, I need you to hit this way. And I'm like, I don't want to do this.
Yeah.
And they're like, well, this is the way to go. And I'm like, or I can turn around and I can wait for everybody else to go. But no, they were determined until...
So, if there's one thing that kind of comes right back up, it's like, this is a paid event. What do we do when it's our own events? We listen to each other. We understand each other's concerns.
Yeah.
And we make it work.
Yeah.
Well, we try to, like, I like to push our members a little bit. You know, like, I know we
push within their boundaries. Yeah.
I push within their boundaries. You know, we've done this trail 4 or 5 times. There's an obstacle that's a little bit harder than what, say, a newbie would do. And I'd be like, you can do this.
Yeah.
It's not hard.
Yeah.
We're all here.
Yeah, trust your spotters.
Yeah, we're all here. We're all here to support you.
Yeah.
We can have someone video it. We'll have another person spotting you so you don't have to worry about, like, trying to flip between us. And we can walk you through this obstacle. 9 times out of 10, they do it.
Yeah.
You know? Or our member goes, I'm not comfortable with doing that. I can't do that today. All right, sounds good. We'll try it next time.
Yeah.
Like, there's no forcing or anything, like, although there's, to a certain extent, I guess there's a little bit of forcing. You and I are really good at forcing each other into doing things we shouldn't be doing.
Yeah.
Same with Gary.
Yeah.
Gary's really good. I feel like the 4 of us are really good at pushing each other to
be fair.
To be fair.
Gary doesn't need much forcing.
Gary doesn't need a lot of forcing.
I bet you will.
To the I don't know what the proper word is, but the
to the
chagrin.
Or the demise of the day.
The demise of the day. The
the driving home in front wheel drive.
yeah.
Or on the trailer. No, I was.
We got CA this year.
We do have CA. We had CA last year. Yeah, but no, I was just even thinking about when you talk about like egging Gary on. He had that moment on Crystal, right? And all of us were like, oh, I don't know if you should do it. And the kids were like, do it, do
Yeah.
it. The kids were.
Yeah, and
Gary's-
there's my sister standing there like.
And then,
we've driven many hours to get here, Gary.
well, exactly. But what happened?
Yeah.
There was not like, hey, I bet you can't get through that. No, it was just the kids going, come on, Gary, you can do it. And he's like, I shall do it.
Yeah.
And he broke. But there's another one.
And then we're eating some breakfast cereal. Snap, crackle, pop.
But there's another one that's locked. And look at the difference between his Jeep locked. And say, for instance, like, we had that you weren't there.
No.
That green TJ, you know? Or even the silver.
Even silver, the other blue one?
Yeah, like
the
we
little
do.
4-popper that was open on Scotch.
We have
that thing was a slug with no traction.
Yeah, but like you look at the silver one.
Yeah.
Going up that, like, we had to winch him up Forest Mountain.
Yeah, we had to
That
winch him.
wasn't the trail for him.
No.
No.
And he came on greens too, and that was not a good trail for his setup either.
But he did
And time
okay on
constraints,
he
yeah.
did okay on Scotch. But again, he had
Open.
he was open
35-30.
Yeah, but
Open,
he
open.
had issues
Yeah.
at certain points on the trail, or he didn't try obstacles the same way Gary did.
Yeah.
But Gary had the traction with being locked front and rear.
Yeah.
He's putting it
Like,
all out there.
lockers really truly make a huge difference.
Well, even look at Cheryl's Jeep. It's
Yeah.
locked in the rear, and it, like when her front drive shaft went for a shit, I just pulled it out, and she did everything in 2-wheel drive.
Yeah, exactly.
Like there was a couple of things that maybe she drove around, but
Yeah, you still got a lot more bite with those lockers.
yeah,
Well, exactly. It's a
Locker.
completely...
yeah.
Well, all right, let's go back. Let's really go back in time. My Cherokee, compared to your Cherokee, you kicked my butt on how many obstacles? And I mostly... There was a lot of momentum for me. Because same vehicle.
Yeah.
But I was open.
Base, yeah.
I was open.
You had bigger tires, didn't you?
I did. I had 35s on at that point in time. Yeah. You were running the
I had
33s.
yeah,
you were running the 33s, and but you had locked front and rear, and there was obstacles that you could just, same as he does now, just walks up.
Yeah.
Comparative to me, who would just like most times the only way I got up obstacles that were more difficult was I had to have momentum.
Yeah, and I like watching him go up stuff because it's just like with the doubler and the lock, it's just crawl, whereas I need momentum, so it's a little bit more exciting.
Hop, skip, and a jump.
Yeah.
Well, I remember the first time we went out on Forest with it. Like, after he'd done the build, after we'd upgraded the suspension, we'd gone to 35s and everything like that. Like, our first time out of the barn, essentially. In how many years? And we went to Forest.
Yeah.
And this one just, not even, like, an inch of tire spin.
Yeah. Coming out of the bowl.
Like, and he just walked up it so perfectly.
Yeah.
And there was me and Red, and I was just like, and I think we both said it at the same time on the video, and we're like, this isn't even fair anymore.
But then you compare that was a two-door sport, manual, 321 gears, open diffs, relatively aggressive driver, and a heavy set of 35-inch tires.
Yeah, I think he was
aggressive driver, but his clutch control
was on point,
good, especially for the setup he was running.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
like,
comparative to some of the others.
Yeah.
Like, compared to some of the others we've seen
like
on the trail,
he's
absolutely.
a skilled driver.
He's very skilled, and he definitely has a good clutch.
Yeah.
Like, he has good clutch control for sure.
Yeah.
That is one thing I always tell.
Could have been a show otherwise.
Yeah, I always tell Gary that, and I'm like, buddy, I love your clutch control because I love the fact that I never hear that engine rev.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know,
or
and
if
Gary,
it is, it's actually under power. It's not just sitting there idling.
Yeah, but I mean, like, I have to admit, Gary is a really good standard driver, and he definitely knows how to wheel his Jeeps with standard. You know,
there has been an occasion, not many, but there has been on occasion where we've had more sticks than autos on our trail.
Absolutely, there's not many autos. There's you, me, and
what? Well, Trix, Cheryl's auto.
Yeah.
Oh, and
or
Trooper.
JLs.
Yeah, Trooper, JLs.
Yeah, but like,
it's getting to be more.
I say we're pretty much a 50-50 split.
Yeah,
really.
I was originally going to swap a manual into Trix too, but I didn't want to have to deal with that.
And it's still okay. It's still okay now.
Yeah, it's still working now. So.
Yeah, well, I mean, we're hoping to eventually swap a standard into mine or do a whole different engine
There's
setup.
still time.
But there is still time. There's
the manual swap would be simpler-ish than an engine swap.
Just doing both at the same time.
Easy. This is peer pressure here. Hey.
There's been a lot of peer pressure. Mitch has been getting a lot of slack about a lot of things recently. So
ball joint eliminators, 12 valve. Yeah.
I don't need ball joint eliminator. I don't. Oh.
Yes, you do.
Apparently, that was.
So why does she need a ball joint eliminator?
Because the internet, the authority on all, says that they will explode otherwise.
Depends on how you wheel.
Yes. But I just feel like you add another 450, 500 pounds of weight, and then you have all this. Now you have this go, whereas the 200 horse had no go, and now you have a manual trans with a flywheel that doesn't want to give up. Mm-hmm. Oof.
I actually got asked today when I was at work. They were my buddy Darren was like, "It's not a standard your Jeep?" He's like, I'm surprised. He's like, everything you have is a standard. And I'm like, yeah, it's the one thing that didn't, but the price and how we got it, like, we couldn't beat it.
Yeah.
You know, so.
You walked into it, and this is like, you're like, okay, I don't want a four-door per se. I don't want an auto, and I'm not a big fan of this engine.
You didn't want a four-door. It was like you knew that you were going to meet somebody with a two-door that was going to talk shit about the four-door.
I liked my YJ.
Yeah.
I liked the YJ that I had. And then he had a four-door, right?
Yeah.
Like, he had his Cherokee, and what's that meme that you always see on Facebook, you know, four-door Wranglers where they were slapping the face to all Cherokee owners.
Maybe. So, back at it?
Yeah, back at it.
We're good. We have another round of beer, so everyone's content. And
cheers to cold ones.
But anyways, yeah, it's funny that because you had the YJ, you wanted a two-door and whatnot. When I test drove my Jeep now, I also test drove a four-door Willys 6-speed, actually. And it just didn't feel like a Jeep to me. So that's why I ended up with the two-door, because it felt like a Jeep. Because my very first job was working at a tourist camp up north, but the camp vehicle was an old YJ.
Nice.
5-speed that I got to drive around on the trails and
squares.
Whatnot. Yeah. No, and it was great. And that's what I remember being so fun, because I was 13, 14 years old driving around.
That wheelbase
So,
is
like,
dimensionally...
Never mind that it's a cool vehicle. It's, I'm 13 years old and driving a car.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, that's in your blood.
So, but yeah, so that's how I ended up with the two-door.
Yeah.
Because a manual two-door at the time was a 6-month wait, and I'm impatient.
Like, I want a Jeep now.
Yeah.
I have the Bug now.
Yeah.
But
Well, think
cool
about
model,
it.
right?
Think about it. You brought the Jeep home. We had our Jeep over here. That was when you lived across the street. And
Yeah.
you and I were like spying each other because I'm
Like,
like,
oh, they've got a Jeep. I thought they like Rangers. Maybe they are cool after all.
Yeah. There were those, like, weirdos.
Yeah.
I would say we did have a bit of a Ranger thing when we first moved in.
Yeah.
So
Both steps.
There was a lot of vehicles going on here when you guys first moved in. I couldn't really place which vehicle belonged here and which didn't.
well, I was just saying because my parents were doing that, and I think they were doing some rentals and stuff like that, trying to figure out what vehicle they wanted to drive, like do they want to buy. So like we had different
Yeah.
vehicles here all the time.
Yeah, like you had
Because
to,
every week we had a different vehicle. And then
Mm-hmm.
my parents had the Escape, my dad's work vehicle.
Oh, when
and-
they were living with us, too.
yeah. But that's a whole different other story.
Yeah, I
but
was going to say, that's
I say we can
off topic.
Yeah.
100% off
So,
topic.
4 doors, turns out they're amazing for a family. Lots of
Oh,
room.
absolutely.
Yeah.
I love your two-door, but I mean, I can't. I really love the trunk space.
Well, yes. So if you don't have young kids, you can pull that back seat out, and then you got all the trunk space you need.
But okay, well, let's. All right, so
If you're dinks with dogs.
yeah.
I was just saying, but you do have your 2 dogs.
Yeah.
Plus 2 kids. You go up north, you're taking 2 vehicles.
You could do
Unless you're
So
like wearing a couple of dogs.
No, we've done it before in only the Jeep with both kids, both dogs, and us going up. It wasn't comfortable for the kids, but we did it. Mm-hmm. But anyways, fuck that distracted me.
Train of thought.
Yeah.
Sidetrack. But yeah, it can be done. And it's just sometimes maybe you could have a roof rack or something.
I mean, the extra room of the 4-door is nice.
Yeah.
I will
But-
admit.
I recall 100% when we were stuck on Forest. I forget what we were doing. And we had to turn around at the top of the first obstacle in
Yeah.
your Jeep. And I was like,
That was when there was other Jeeps there that were stuck, right?
we
The
Oh, I
4-liter
remember
had quit when it was
some
on
kind of
side
fuel
camber.
pump issue.
Yeah,
Or
yeah.
maybe it was electronics, yeah. But yeah, I remember.
that.
Yeah, it's funny because those like Jeep buggies, whatever you want to call that, they were stranded, right? And they were stuck, and it was a complete bottleneck right at the base of that
Yeah,
hill. Like
yeah.
there was no going around them.
No, so yeah, I turned around like little whoop whoop, and I'm around, and you guys look like Austin Powers trying to turn a golf cart in a tunnel.
That's how I turn around all the time. It's even now.
So yeah, so that's you can't beat the wheelbase for that.
Yeah,
No.
And I can only imagine the little baby ones, like Greg's there with the 80-something inch wheelbase.
Oh,
like,
well, driving
get outta
it
here.
yesterday,
yeah,
it was an experience.
yeah.
Because like we were driving and there was water, and he obviously doesn't want to get his Jeep dirty.
No.
Like that was his first time going off road. I thought it was
Yeah.
fun. I thought it was amazing. I had a
Yeah.
lot of fun.
The
The
kids
kids had a lot
loved
of
it.
fun.
I
You
loved
had
it.
fun.
Yeah.
Greg had a smile from ear to ear. It was an amazing experience.
Yeah, M38A1, just to clarify.
Yep. But his turning radius, man, like there'd be a puddle and he'd just be like, I'm like, oh gosh, he's gonna stick a tire in it, he's gonna be pulled in, and it was just like, like it was amazing.
Just nimble.
No, it was like a wheelbarrow. It
Yeah.
just turned on a dime.
Like it would put your Jeep to shame, like,
Yeah.
and you wouldn't think it would.
I bet.
But
though.
like it was so
manual steering.
Oh, the steering wheel's the size of a bus.
Yeah,
I
so
love
you got
it.
good leverage.
Yeah, that's right. And yeah, that was tremendous.
That was a
fun.
lot
Yeah.
of fun.
Yeah.
But yeah, watching him jump through everything was great. Just to see.
Yeah.
When it comes to pass and he takes you for a ride, man. Oh, you
Oh
gotta
yeah,
do it.
yeah. I just missed you guys because I pulled in to drop off the MIG tank,
And you could still smell the
and
dripping
I
glue.
seen him. You guys were just going past short
No way.
whenever I
you
turned
didn't
on to St.
follow?
Peter. No, I didn't want to be a creep.
Whatever. That's what our group's all
I was
about.
gonna say we creep here.
Yeah.
If
But-
I saw the big Tundra waving or the Jeep coming, I know who it is.
But anyways, we got a little off topic about axles and whatnot. So with yours, when you did everything except truss. How come?
Yeah, we decided not to trust it because we weren't changing the suspension or anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
So we didn't need like extra attachment points or anything like that, like any bracketry or anything.
And we figured we'd limit our new do-it-yourself endeavors to one thing. So like, I knew very little about doing the preheating of the cast steel.
It was a lot. It was a huge project that we couldn't justify the cost, the time, and everything like that.
And sleeves are easy, right?
Well, sleeves are easy, and you'd done them before.
And when we had heard that the 44 can handle a 37, just put out there, 37 adequately wheeled, gently wheeled, whatever you want to say, and we were running 35s, we figured that the 30 was the biggest thing, and if we're going to have any problems, it was probably going to be axle shafts, and that was going to be the thing.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, well, definitely, we'll have to touch on why we've done another axle upgrade in mine.
Yeah, why we learned how to do gears again.
But keeping with the 30, like the 44-30 combo, if you had to do it over again, would you put at least, like maybe not truss it, but would you put at least those gussets in, those C gussets?
So we actually did put C gussets on.
Before or after?
After
the catast.
We had a bit of a catastrophe, and that was when we ordered the C gussets.
Which you can see pictures of in the last episode.
Last
episode or the episode before? One of the previous episodes.
Working on the JKU, on the trailer.
Yeah.
Welding, heating, bending, prying.
Yeah, there
new
was...
ball joints, new axle shaft.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I would say we did the C gussets then. I think it was only on that one side. I don't think we did the other side in the end.
Yeah.
Before we pulled them.
Yeah, because it just... you wanted to go the next step, and so did I, and...
Well, we had that discussion all winter. And,
because we were looking at hubs, and the hubs were an 8-bolt.
Yeah, we were looking at doing hubs on it. We looked at just upgrading the front. That was a huge thing. Yeah. We looked at Rubicon 44s. That was a big one for us.
Yeah, because, $2,500 Canadian?
Well, $2,500, and you had to have the money ready. Like, you saw those axles come up, they're gone within 10-15 minutes.
Yeah. Fast.
So
and then so we buy the front, we still got to upgrade the rear,
possibly,
or we have to change the gears in the front.
Yeah, that was like the whole thing is that and we'd have to buy a new setup, like a new gearing, because it was the ones we had were for 30.
Yeah. And you got to buy a Rubicon specific ring gear. And
exactly. So it was kind of like one of those things that we.
And the locker that's in it, can you because I know in a Rubicon they're limited to 4 low, right?
Well, I think in this case you would just send direct power with.
So they do work with.
I just say
power?
I feel like we'd have to.
To the best of my knowledge,
I would say that would be something that we'd have to actually.
I tried not to educate myself this way because once you start going down that path, let's just get a Rubicon 4 low transfer case.
Yeah.
Rock, what do they call that? The 4 rock, I forgot, but anyway.
But we then you got on the whole idea of he's just like, well, why don't we just put a Super Duty in the front, and we'll just keep the 44 in the rear.
Yeah, we'll match the gearing, put 37s. Bob's your uncle.
Yeah, and it was just like we went on that.
We skipped leg day.
Well, I'm like, but if we have a flat, I'm like, because then we're gonna be running 2 different bolt patterns and everything like that.
Well, you'd have to get adapters.
Well, 5-on-5 to an 8-on-6.5, or 8-on-170.
I would just say 170.
Yeah.
So
That's bananas.
It didn't really make sense, and we kept going through the pros and cons. We came across a few YouTube videos that kind of swayed us and gave us a little bit of more of an oomph and more of an idea of what we needed.
Yeah.
And that's when we decided to go for a ton swap, because to try and fix what we had to make it more reliable. Because after I broke.
There was no confidence.
No, I noticed that too. Like the way it changed the way you wheeled.
Yeah, well, think about.
I knew it was a weak point.
Yeah.
Because I knew we had bent the outer C. I knew it was only a matter of time till I bent it again.
Yeah.
Or exploded it.
Yeah.
And with it being your daily, you can't afford to. Oops. Well, I'll get that new axle when I get money.
Because that weekend when I broke, we had an event the next day. And that whole entire scenario cost us well over $1,000.
Yeah, it was like $950 for the shaft, inner and outer shaft, U-joint already assembled, and then we got some that was only an hour away.
Yeah. We had a bearing already here.
And the bearing was fine. It was fine. We just changed it all just to be sure. And upper and lower ball joints, and then bending the inner seat to get back into position.
Yeah. Heating it, like red hot, but not too hot that you're weakening it too much.
Yeah, exactly. You're not. Yeah. And then, like you said, we welded it after.
Yeah.
All the grinding, thankful to the neighbor. All that grinding to smooth it all down. Like I am ecstatic to use those axles in a different build.
I already have another project set up.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, another project. But in all fairness, I think it was a good move.
It was the best move because, as you said, I became very sheepish. Like we went out on Scotch line, and I wasn't doing obstacles.
No.
Because especially since there was one day when I was on my own.
Yeah.
And it was, I wouldn't say the first time, but I don't think you were there and you weren't there. And I was wheeling with other members in our group. And I think Cheryl was there. I think Cheryl was wheeling Willie.
Yes,
so it was Cheryl, it was Robert.
I remember her telling me about that.
Yeah, it was Cheryl, Robert, and we had Double there with us.
Yeah.
And 4 Jeeps, you weren't with me. You were working. You were away somewhere.
Probably baseball.
Yeah, and going out, and I didn't do obstacles.
Yeah.
I skipped obstacles because I'm like, I'm with a group that aren't as experienced as I am. I need to be the one to spot them through. I need to make sure that I'm not the one breaking.
Yeah.
Holding them up.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? And I'm like, none of them can save me. I'm all bigger than them. You know what I mean? Like, I have the kids with me. It was just... It really hurt my confidence because I wouldn't try things because I didn't want to break. I don't want to be that person, you know?
Yeah, and right now, like I said, you'll just go for it.
Yeah.
I definitely not go like a wild man, but you'll go for it.
Well, my Jeep also has over 340K on it. Like, every shift's a cliffhanger for me. So, like, there's no giving her. Like, do I get up obstacles? Absolutely. But I'm not redlining it to get up an obstacle.
No, for sure.
But, no, I'd love to...
Yeah, looking back, I remember because even one of the times we were on Pencil, we went up, not the waterway, but we went up the back way.
Yeah.
And I remember being concerned about that. I'm like,
you wouldn't let me.
I don't like to say it like that. But
no, but you were just like, because I think I was like, okay, I'm going to go up that way. And you're like, your Jeep should stay down here. And I remember it was a bit of a bone for you and I to kind of like have that discussion because I was like, well, what's the point in me wheeling this thing if I can't wheel it?
I strangely remember that too.
And it's hilarious looking back now because think about it, like you'll just hit it now.
Because of the breakage and
you lose all
the whole situation, you lose all confidence in the vehicle.
Yeah.
Well, it's snapped like a glass jar.
Oh, it was. Yeah. It snapped so quickly, so easily. I wish there was a video of it.
Yeah.
Like I wish we had a video of it so everyone could see how quickly it snapped.
Yeah.
How it wasn't under a lot of pressure. It wasn't under a lot of load. It would just be like accelerating under your driveway.
But you had 4 wheels spinning.
Yep.
And one comes to a dead stop on the ledge in reverse. And the other, I guess, and like I said, you were not giving her.
No.
Because we were, I think we were shaking. I think we were hand shaking you.
Yep, you were rocking me.
And it just happened to just bind up the front and...
So, a lock 30, yes or no, under a Jeep? Good idea, bad idea?
I think it depends on how you wheel, what you're wheeling.
Yeah, rocks maybe not.
Well,
Forest is one of the hardest, like Forest and Greens are 2 of the hardest trails. Mm-hmm. Right?
Okay. Well, I think we've also,
Yeah.
Think about it. We had an exploded front Dana 30 open. Chromometer shafts, heavy ass 37-inch tires.
But he was also giving her pretty hard. And we were having a little bit of we were having a little bit of hopping and stuff like that. So a small amount. He was running a heavier tire because he was
manual
running
trans.
It's 37 STT Pros, right?
Yeah, like those are heavy suckers.
Those are heavy, E-rated.
Because I mean, think of your STTs compared to my 35s. Yeah, yours were heavier than mine.
Yeah, yours were like
mine were
tubes compared to
right.
Yeah,
so
they're heavy tire.
You have
STT
heavy
Pros means ST armor.
Yeah.
You have heavy tires. You have heavy on a light axle.
Yeah.
You know, that wasn't really a shock. He didn't do as much damage as I did. Yeah. So maybe that's where the locker kind of.
But he was already, I think, clutch in.
Yeah.
When it snapped.
So it was just momentum that snapped.
It was just momentum that snapped it.
And that seems like a recurring theme because yours was momentum. I know you had the auto, but in all fairness, yours, oh man, it popped easy.
It popped like it was nothing, and it didn't actually sound. You heard a break, but it didn't sound as bad as it looked.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then we didn't realize the extent of the damage.
That's what I mean. Like it didn't sound, and it didn't even look that bad at first.
Yeah.
So do you think when it broke, it popped the ball joint?
I think what happened was the ears smashed. One of the caps went under either one of the ears.
Yeah.
And it pried the whole shebang down.
Oh, okay.
So when
I think it pulled down.
Of course, it pulled it down.
Yeah.
Because it extended the lower ball joint, pushed the ball joint out, and it pulled the upper ball joint to a limited. And then when it limited,
That's when
it had nowhere to go, so it just kept pulling that inner C down.
Oh yeah.
And it pulled it down. Again, it only may have been a quarter inch, 3/16 of an inch, but it was enough to make the difference and enough that we had to heat it and bend it back. So, I
mean, she drove out of the trail, though.
Oh, yeah, it was fine. It was just that we knew we were going to bell mouth that axle tube if we kept on trucking. So that's where we just walked it out slowly. For us, it's a long entry. And then right back to the quad section, went and got the truck and trailer.
Yeah. I took off in Double's Jeep and
off we went.
Yeah.
So I don't know, man. That's a tough call because the traction, unbelievable.
Yeah. Maybe a selectable, not a lunchbox then.
The traction
if you
is the
could,
same.
I would consider putting a locker in the front of yours.
Yeah.
Being a 2-door, being a bit lighter and stuff.
That's
like
it.
That.
I'm a fair bit lighter than a 4-door.
You're a fair bit lighter. Your wheelbase puts you out of situations that I'm in.
Yeah.
So I think that would help you out as well. Plus you have the lighter, and the tires aren't as heavy. Even I don't think your 35s are nearly as heavy as your 33s.
Oh God, no.
Right. No. So I feel like you would probably get away with it.
Yeah.
You're not super hammering on the gas. You do have hammering moments, but it's not every day, every second.
And it's not when it's gonna bind.
Yeah.
It's like if I'm trying to get up over something.
Yeah.
You could hit the locker and go. Like if you're
if I got a selectable. Yeah.
Yeah, a selectable for sure, but also you can't run launch boxes.
That's my understanding.
So they say.
Yeah, that's the understanding.
The internet.
Yeah, like I said, I still want to try that out. But
yeah. So it's definitely
I don't know.
Would I do it again? I don't know. Like as I said, as you said as well, we already had those axles lined up for another project. Is the project lighter? Absolutely, it will be lighter.
Yeah, it won't be a 4-door JK.
It won't be a 4-door JK. We're going to have a lot less weight on it.
Well, compared to if the project I have in mind is the one that you're still thinking about, compared to the factory axles on either one of those vehicles, those are a hell of a lot.
Well, absolutely. So,
well, because in all fairness, you got to give the JK Dan 30 credit. It is the strongest 30 you'll ever see.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Like component wise, tube wise, even C wise.
Well, they've kept the 30's been around for how long?
Yeah, forever. Like
it's
CJ's.
the same. Well, exactly. It's the same axle going through.
I think prior to CJ, it was like a 27 or something weird, but
yeah, but it stood up to the test of time, and usually, even when you look at Gary's. How often did he have an issue with the 30? It wasn't the 30 that was causing the issue. It was the 35, right?
And the 35 is known for being a little bit
exactly.
of a grenade, but
in all fairness, I'm pretty sure the 35 is just like a rear version 30.
Oh, absolutely.
27 splines, tiny ass.
But for what he's put that 35 through, he did really, really well.
Considering the tire rocks are decently heavy, and he did a couple of clutch dumps.
Tires,
Yeah, anytime you go to hit a mud hole.
And he started water, like a clutch dump. So, I mean, realistically, that axle and those lockers held up.
Yeah.
Oh, you'll never, in my opinion, you'll never bust the lock right. You'll never bust the lunchbox.
No, absolutely
not. But the axle shafts, the pinion, all that stuff.
That's not they're not the weak link. It's the,
it's the peripherals.
The shafts and
then eventually the tubes, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, would I do it again?
That's a tough call.
Maybe not locally.
How do you mean, Doug?
If we did it again, I think I wouldn't do forest. I wouldn't do greens.
With
a setup?
With that setup.
On a 35-inch tire 4-door.
Yeah,
so you'd build the axle to wheel and have lots of traction.
Yeah.
And not go on the trails where you need to wheel and have lots of traction.
Yeah,
or be prepared. In your mind.
Be prepared.
I get what you're saying and I get your stance, but it just seems a little counterintuitive. But
you know what? One of probably the big thing, and actually that whole entire scenario, would it have been different if I had a 4-inch as opposed to my 2?
Or we would have just used the jack and just popped you off and never had this problem.
Yeah, but also too, if we had
you hung belly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's why
what
you
I mean.
say
if I had a 4-inch, if I had a 4-inch lift, would it have made a difference? But I've even been hung up there. That is the one issue. And you have a 2.5, and you were kicking my butt throughout the whole thing.
Yeah.
Because your 2-door shorter axle, your wheelbase was different. It dropped you into different holes.
Yep.
So we've had 4-doors out on the trails for our newbie runs. And what's the first thing when they're like, "Oh, I really like some upgrades. What should I look at?" 2-inch lift.
Yeah.
Like, that is my standard thing of, like, put a 2-inch lift in it. You want to get your belly off the ground.
Yeah.
That's what you're going to want to do.
Yeah.
Don't worry about tires just yet. The stock tires are fine. Let's get your belly off the ground.
Yeah.
It's amazing the difference.
Yeah.
I don't think I'd go back to something like that. Like, I think if we bought another 4-door, I'd immediately probably put a 4-inch lift in it if we were going to wheel it.
Yeah.
And just leave
that's
stock
a good
tires.
point.
And if
Yeah,
you're
that's a
being
good point.
if you're being real, you're buying a Rubicon.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean,
Because the
not
money,
all the monies.
the
but
money.
still.
Yeah, well, that's right. Yeah, if we pool our money.
Yeah.
But the upfront costs versus if you have any goal for that,
Yeah.
it's hard to.
It's hard. It's
because that's another option too. Like you say to yourself, okay, hey, I'd love to put an axle in mine.
Yeah.
Well, if I put one axle, again, $2,500.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll just put 2 axles in, and then they're already geared.
yeah.
They're already ready to go. And like, okay, well, that is like $4,500.
Yeah.
I'd say $4,500 is $5
But
grand.
you bolt them in an afternoon, a weekend.
Yeah, that's true.
That's a good point. That's a good point.
Our the ton swap was definitely not a weekend, and neither was the gear swap from the stock gears too.
No.
And those were
Ready.
axles that were ready. But
Yeah.
it wasn't. We didn't just swap it in the driveway with factory suspension or simple.
No,
bolting.
you changed a whole lot of stuff, which is why I think we should end this episode
That's
here.
right. Another
Absolutely.
time.
And
Another
then,
time.
and then the next technical episode, we can get more into the 1-ton swap.
One-ton
Absolutely,
swap.
it's
Because I was kept in the dark about the whole thing.
For
I
no
didn't
reason.
I
no
didn't
good
get to
reason.
witness any of it, so I'd love
There
to
was
hear
a
more.
lot of reasons why
I understand.
We kept it in the
I'm not
dark.
bitter at all.
Yeah,
there was
Maybe
a little bit of bitterness. A little bit of bitterness.
But that was.
Although he didn't notice my Jeep, I brought him out. I did. You were the first one to know, and you were the first one to see it.
I do appreciate that, but
But I love the fact that you came here and you had this like look on your face, and your
Well,
wife was just
okay.
like, "Are you pregnant?" Like it
no,
was
no,
just.
no. In all fairness, okay. To be fair,
To be fair,
this should be a next episode, but I'm going to put it here because you guys had been weird. Like, obviously, because you were busy with the Jeep.
fucking busy.
I didn't know that, but you guys were acting pretty weird, like kind of distant and a little short and whatnot. I'm like, what's going on?
we didn't have people over,
Yeah,
which we
and then-
always do.
Yeah,
and-
so you guys weren't yourselves. So, and then I get a message from you, like, I need you and Cheryl to come over here. I got something to tell you. I'm like, what's going on? Like, so
that
drive
much
the whole
of-
way over here. Cheryl and I are bouncing, like, are they splitting up? Are they pregnant again? Like, what the?
Yeah, more
Yeah.
kids, less house.
So
what
I
happened?
was more concerned about you guys personally than I was about Jeep. And then whenever I seen the oh,
It wasn't until you walked in the driveway you were like, "Are you guys?" You're
Yeah,
just like
yeah.
worried looking around. I'm like,
Did
you see what I
did? Yeah.
But-
that was a lot of time for such a small reward. Like it was intense.
Yeah.
But like you said, your first concern was not the Jeep; it was the people.
Yeah.
see. That's why we're kind of like siblings, you know. You're just kind of like worried about me, and then you're like, "Oh well,
Oh,
you built
okay,
a
you're
Jeep
fine.
and like you didn't tell me, and oh, fuck you."
Yeah. Pretty much.
Yeah, if we had to do it again, there'd be no question. We included it.
Yeah. Whatever.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So
Anyways.
yeah, that's it, eh?
That's it for the 4430. We'll talk about the
Yeah.
1-tons in another episode. Never get talking about your 88 and 30,
True.
but we'll have to talk about it. We'll have to.
I feel like
Make
the
time.
Cherokee's gonna have to be.
The Cherokee's gonna have to be its whole episode because you got so much cool shit. You got
It could be a guest appearance in many episodes.
yeah.
She's definitely
Long standing. Yeah.
She's a
All
hero.
right,
That's
well,
for sure. Say what's the beers of choice tonight? I've had a Simply Spiked. That's something I picked up today. It's a strawberry lemonade, and then I have, of course, my Waterloo tart cherry because it's my favorite drink.
Yeah, I've got a Castronaut Session Hazy IPA from Refined Fool Brewing Company,
Nice.
which is pretty nice. Thank you, Mitch.
Sarnia,
And then I-
Sarnia, is it?
Is it Sarnia?
I think it's Sarnia.
A family in Sarnia. It doesn't say.
I think I read it. It doesn't matter. But
Oh yeah,
Let's say you
Sarnia.
had
And then I had one was about avocados, and it was a Brout IPA. And
Zane
then-
lost his avocado
was gonna
bar
say, it-
bag.
Yeah, it is okay. So yeah, it is kind of a cool can. And then, like I said, just nice crisp lager from Bench, and here we are. And it says Lincoln Locker, and I was like, well, it's Lincoln Lager. But the first thing I saw, I pulled out the fridge and like Lincoln Locker. That is this is a Jeep podcast.
This is a Jeep podcast. This definitely has to.
Yeah.
This is the beer for the night.
So
Excellent.
anyway, yeah.
All
Thanks for watching, listening, whatever.
Until next time. One more thing before before you guys go, as I always sign up, I want to make sure that we let you guys know that we are on Instagram at WSOTR Jeeps. Facebook, we have our email and our website all under WSOTR Jeeps. Give us a like, give us a follow. We're always posting Jeep pictures, videos of all the cool experiences that we have.
All right, till next time.